Hi everybody, welcome to week 3. We are not gathering any moss this week. We're rolling ahead and getting right into, well, two things really. And so it's a busy week, plus you're finishing off that group exercise. And again, to meet our outcomes and objectives in 7 weeks, we've got to stay busy. And so I know it is a challenge, but it is one that in the end will make sure you're leaving the course with the skill set you have to have. So this week we'll be wrapping up this last group exercise. I see many of you have submitted your cover letters and resumes already. I will be grading those over the course of the week. I should have those in by no later than Friday, I would guess, possibly earlier. Hopefully earlier. I prefer to get those done sooner than later. This week you polish off that group exercise, and then we have 2 more tasks. The next major writing assignment is the absolute beginner's exercise, which asks you to develop a set of instructions for a very specific audience. And I want you to bear that piece of it in mind. And if you are writing instructions on how to program your VCR, your audience can't be people who want to program their VCR. That's a very general audience. I want you to think of something specific. So perhaps older people who want to program their VCR, people with no technical experience who want to program their VCR, a group that you can identify, envision, think about, analyze. The broader the group, the harder it is to target your message. And really, the harder it is for me to then say, well, you've really accomplished what you wanted to accomplish here, and it will have an impact on the grade. This week, you will do 2 things related to your next essay, the essay itself. You'll do some preliminary reading and reflect on the whole process of instruction, of teaching, of learning in one discussion board. And then you'll complete an audience and use profile and identify your topic and post those to another discussion board. The audience and use profile we saw back in chapter 2. I've given you the page numbers again, but basically it's a careful, detailed analysis of your audience. And again, that audience has to be specific. If it's not, the only comment you'll get back from me on your profile will be, this isn't specific enough, narrow it down, and that could have an impact on your grade. The other thing we're doing is wrapping up our current unit. Absolute Beginners is Unit 2. Unit 1, again, what we've been focusing on is audience analysis and then persuasive writing, tailoring a document, a message to have exactly the impact you want it to have. Cover letter and resume, very much a persuasive documents. There's one more piece of writing you'll be doing for me in this final, as sort of a final task for this unit, and it's going to be a memo written in response to a case study. So now you'll see what we've done in this first unit. We've laid the groundwork for what we're going to be doing for the rest of the course by looking carefully at audience analysis, at designing and crafting a message for your audience. You'll use that throughout for the next assignment, which is that set of instructions, and then for the final assignment, which is a technical report. All those skills will come to play. You've also hit a number of document types. You've written the cover letter and resume. You've also, as a group, tackled a business letter, which is not attached to a job application. And now for this final piece of writing, you'll be writing a memo. The thing to keep in mind as you write the memo, though, is I'm assessing not just the format, and you will see Chapter 15, if I remember correctly, has a format. If you assign the reading for the format for the memo at any rate. Not only the format, but also the analysis. This is a situation I'm in this case study. This is my position in the company. This is the situation in the company. This is how people are likely to feel now. And really, most importantly, here's how I want people to feel. Because here's the important thing, and especially in this scenario, I'll give you sort of a bit of a spoiler on it, or a cheat code. So just type this in when you start the scenario. I'm kidding, you can't just type it in. And people who don't game will have no idea what I'm talking about. So just ignore everything I've said for the last, let's say, 10 or 15 seconds. A cheat on this is this. Remember your positional authority. In other words, you're not the boss in this scenario, so you can't simply tell people what to do and expect them to do it. That is usually a bad move at any rate. If a boss is just throwing out commands, not caring how people feel about them, that person is not going to get the best work out of his or her employees. At any rate, you don't have the authority to do that even if you wanted to. But also keep in mind, you not only want people to do what you want them to do, you want them to want to do it. In other words, you want them motivated. That buy-in is really important if you want to have the best results in anything. Yes, you can get people to show up for an 8 o'clock meeting by just saying you have to show up. You get the most work out of them, however, if they are frustrated, feeling like a later meeting time would be fine, or feeling like it's a silly meeting to begin with, feeling like a phone call or an email could have dealt with it. Of course not. If they understand the importance, if they see the benefit in what you're asking them to do, then they will feel motivated. Also, you don't want people to be depressed, upset, discouraged. Yes, fear is a motivator, but a lot of times fear doesn't support the kind of creative thinking that you want going forward in this scenario. So that is that. In the past, I've had you write a letter and a memo. So I'm just giving you a heads up. If you see any references anywhere in the course materials for a letting them down easy letter, I have cut that out. You are not doing that. But as I've adapted the course, and you may have seen this a few times, as I've adapted the course to the 7-week semester, a few references from the winter run have crept in. So if you see any references anywhere to that, ignore them. So here I am coming into the content area of the course. If we scroll down, you will now see Unit 2, Absolute Beginners, is open. So as usual, just work top to bottom through this. And my apologies, I'm getting an incoming phone call that I don't need to answer. So I will please ask you to just ignore that ringing in the background, which is really annoying, but I've come this far. I'd rather complete it. At any rate, Absolute Beginners Writing Instructions. This is the assignment sheet which will lay out what we're about. Read this carefully. Process, evaluation criteria, all of this is essential except for these dates, which I've just noticed are from the last run. I will change these. If you see dates in documentation like this, ignore them. The correct dates will always be in the relevant checklist, okay, which is for week 3 here. What you're going to be doing is reading 2 chapters in Lannan, laying out the groundwork for this next assignment. The chapter on instructional writing is especially important. I want you to pay close attention to the format of instructional documents. We saw that with the resume as well. Occasionally people were writing the resumes without seeming to have read the format, the instructions in the format very carefully, or having looked at the models. So look carefully. Instructional writing is very different from standard essay writing. How it looks, how it sounds, and especially the use of things like headings, subheadings, lists, images. All of these are really extremely important. We'll look at some more of that next week. So this week, here you have 2 discussion boards, the Absolute Beginners Warm-Up and the Topic and Audience in Use Profile. Okay, these are the warm-up just gets you thinking about instruction, the process of teaching, the topic, and audience and use profile, which is due, by the way, Monday. Note that it is not due Thursday. Our initial deadline in a week is normally Thursday, but I've given you the full week on that one. That will be where you will give me your thoughts on what you want to write about and the audience for whom you are writing them. And here is that week 3 writing, the audience and use profile, which is exactly this. It just is just referencing it because you are actually writing a very detailed 1-page analysis of your audience and then posting it to that discussion board. And then this Honey for Flies memo, which you will post. If you scroll down over here, you'll see all the stuff that we need for this is here as well. Writing a, sorry, that's week 2. Let me go a little bit further. There we go. Our 2 discussions for the week are linked to right below the checklist. An overview on good news, bad news messages, which will play right into this Honey for Flies assignment. There's a trailer here talking about it a little bit. Here's the assignment itself, the case study itself. So we have to click on those so you can see them. So good news, bad news messages is a presentation. Oh, it's a Prezi, sorry. A Prezi presentation. Which will walk you through basically delivering good news and bad news messages. They're very different strategies. If your audience is going to either feel neutral about what you're saying or feel positive about what you're saying, there's one way to organize and deliver your message. If they're going to feel negatively towards what you're saying, there's another way to organize it. This will play a role in everything you write, but it's very specifically relevant for this Honey for Flies presentation. I've created a little trailer here, which is incredibly corny and silly, but there it is, and corny and silly kind of what I'm about at any rate. If you haven't noticed that by now, you will after seeing this trailer. Then here is the scenario itself, the case study itself. So read through this carefully. Okay, the clues are here. And if you pay attention to both of these other, the good news, bad news messages and the Honey for Flies trailer as well, you'll get a good sense for what I'm looking for. At the very end of the week 3 module is your Dropbox. Here is where you will upload that memo. Okay, this is not going before the rest of the classes, something I'm just going to duck in and assign a grade to. So this is not going to a discussion board, it goes right to the Dropbox. So that is it for week 3. I am during the week going to open up the rest of the stuff you will need for this absolute beginner's set of instructions. So I'll open up next week's work a bit early this week as well. I just want to, as I said, try to go through and work it. As you see, I already let a couple of dates slip into that the instructions for this absolute beginner. So I want to go through and make sure that things are as they should be. As always, I'm here. If you've got any questions, don't hesitate to ask. That's basically what I'm here for. And I think as important as all the feedback I give, as important as directing you towards all this various information in the course, is really helping you resolve issues you might be having with the subject matter or just finding your way around the course. So never hesitate to ask. Have a good week.